on FSN. Welcome to beautiful Monument Valley, Utah. This breathtaking terrain high above the sacred Navajo Nation. And this is stop 3 of 10 on the 2007 Red Bull Air Race World Series. Hi again, everybody. Welcome once again to the Red Bull Air Race World Series on FSN. Mike Goldberg, joined again by my partner, Alan Preston. Great to be home. Great to be in the United States of America. And today, we will feature perhaps the most unique and challenging track in the history of this sport.
No question, Mike. This is the first time our pilots have not flown over water. We've got undulating terrain. We've got high altitude. We've got a really fast, really short track. I would say dangerous, exciting, very challenging.
Speaking of challenging, this entire 2007 season has been extremely challenging and utterly disappointing for Kirby Chambliss, our defending champion. Now he and the other American pilots are home. Is that an advantage or disadvantage as he tries to right the ship?
You know, I think it can cut both ways. Me personally, I think it's going to be a support system for him. We all know Kirby's been struggling. We know he was a champion last year. I think here with his family, with his friends, it's a chance for him to right that ship.
Not a long bit of travel from Flying Ranch, Arizona to here in beautiful Utah for Kirby Chambliss. This beautiful terrain has been movie backdrops for The Searchers and Back to the Future 3, Thelma and Louise, Forrest Gump, and Easy Rider.
I love these trips down into the hangars, Mike. We get a chance to see these airplanes, and these are really, really beautiful aircraft. They're the Ferraris of the airplane world. They're purpose-built, they're all about performance, and they're one-on-one with the pilot and the airplane.
Alan, speaking of one-on-one, each event begins with 12 pilots, the top 8 of which advance into head-to-head matchups here in our quarterfinals, where they are seeded by their qualifying times. Nigel Lamb has made it to the quarterfinals. He will square off against the top-seeded Brit, Paul Bonhomme. Peter Besson, one of the more dominant pilots on the series, comes in an uncharacteristically low 7th seed. Utah, the first stop on the Red Bull Air Race World Series circuit, in which the pilots will not compete over water. Many storylines here at Monument Valley, and for those, we check down with the third member of our broadcast team, Emma Griffiths.
The course here is 5,200 feet above sea level, and because of this, the air is the thinnest we have ever seen at a Red Bull air race. Thin air is like racing a car on a rain-soaked track. There's no grip, and pilots flying 20 feet above the ground without this grip are more likely to lose airflow over the wing and stall the plane. Now, this isn't an option, especially with every safe bailout and emergency landing area being a mass of jagged rock. Guys.
Emma, thank you very much. Interesting course indeed here today in Monument Valley.
That's right, Goldie. This is the wildest racetrack I've ever seen. You know, earlier today, we asked Mike Mangold to take us on a run through the track. You can really feel how tough this is on him. Let's take a look and take a listen to what this track is really like from the pilot's seat.
We have diving down for gate number 1. Gate 1 sits up on a plateau. It's rather straight through. As we go through gate 1, we're already looking for our lineup into gate number 2. Speed is over 200 knots. A slight check turn to the left. Through gate 2, hard check left, and now we're going back hard right.
Let me interrupt Mike right here at gate 3. Pilots have got a very critical choice to make. They can go wide and play it safe, or really pull it tight. Much faster, but very risky.
Need to get down low for credit through the chicane. We make our free turn. Very tight right turn. On the buffet as we come around. Gate number 4, change left. Check speed, coming back right for entrance into the quadro.
I'm sure right now everybody at home is wondering why Mike's conversation is broken up in those staccato-like bursts. Pulling 6, 7, 8 Gs requires him to press so hard on his abdomen to stay awake. It's impossible for him to maintain a steady conversation with us.
We come around here. They can pass through in the quadro. Knife edge. Pulling up with 120. We're doing our half cubic. Slight buffet. Everybody's getting it over the top. The air's thin. Not much lift, not much thrust up here. And that's the short course here at Monument Valley.
Now, Mike might have just made that look easy, but you got to remember, he's just warming up. He's going to put the whip on that puppy later today.
Mike Mangold helping us to break down the course here in Monument Valley. Peter Besson, one of the first to compete today. We go to the tarmac as our first pilots start their engine. The Spaniard Alex Mclan takes to the sky, and we are moments away from racing. But first, let's take a moment to remind everyone of the rules and regulations here on the Red Bull Air Race World Series. The course must be passed through in the proper fashion, horizontal through the blue gates, vertical or so-called knife edge through the red gates. Penalties are incurred for the following. The first, flying too high over a gate, a 3-second penalty. An incorrect level of flight, that's also a 3-second penalty. Incorrect knife edge flight through a red gate, 3-second penalty assessed. Touching a gate is a 10-second penalty added to your time. And if a pilot deviates off course at any time, he will be disqualified. And you want to talk about a great setup for spectators? Monument Valley has given us some of the best seats in the history of sports. And I think some of those dudes down there may have them right now. As we get ready to race, Alex Mclan, the number 2 seed, Besson, surprisingly, the number 7 seed. This is a rematch of a head-to-head battle in Rio, where Mclan was the lower seed, but was awarded the victory when Besson deviated off course after hitting a pylon and was disqualified.
Number 36, Alejandro, you are cleared into the box. Smoke on.
9 challenging gates from start to finish. Here above Monument Valley and the Navajo tribal land. Alex Mclan to start his quarterfinal run, and he opens up very well at 222 miles per hour. Remember, here on the Red Bull Air Race World Series, as you see some powerful G's being pulled, it is always horizontal through the blue gates, vertical or knife edge through the red gates.
We're going to watch him go through the chicane right here, and he's getting back down on the race course. He looked a little high to me on those first 2 pylons.
And I think that was just echoed by the horn we heard in the background. A penalty may very well have been assessed for being too high, flying too high for Alex Mclan, so it cost the error early. He hits gate 6.
We've seen this from him before. He looks really good in spurts, but he's just not very consistent, Mike.
Truly feast or famine, the young career of Alex Mclan here on the Red Bull Air Race World Series. He had shown in qualifying that he has the ability to turn in a tremendous time. Thus, he's the number 2 seed, but that 3-second penalty could very well be the difference in a battle against one of the best in the world in Peter Besson.
I think it will. He got a gift from Peter in the last race in Rio, as we all know, but he's not going to get one today. That just wouldn't be like Peter to make that mistake twice.
Well, 102 plus the 3-second penalty, so 105.18, as it is the Spaniard Alex Mclan who goes into the holding pattern, and this should be, especially based on the 3-second penalty, Alan, a time in which Besson can be better than.
Number 2, Peter, you're cleared into the box. Smoke on.
Besson, I'm sure more than anything else, angered at himself for the mistake in Rio de Janeiro, but it was Mclan who was the beneficiary, so he can send a message back here.
No doubt about that. Besson is going to fly faster at the speed of pain to prove Rio was just a fluke.
Speaking of fast, 221 miles per hour, and man, can he pull some G's. Nearly 10 G's pulled early by Peter Besson.
He's pretty consistent with the way he flies. He's very aggressive, yet very smooth.
Knife edge through gate 4, the red gates. This is truly, with only 9 gates and probably a time of about a minute that could win it, a minute flat, this is a sprinter's course.
It really is, but I'll tell you, if there's one place on this race course where you can take advantage of somebody, Peter will find it right here.
Well, he'll try to do it perhaps through gate 6 and 7, the very tricky quadro, then the one and only trip vertically. He's approaching that right here, and he has a 6-second lead through the second split.
He's just fast at every place on the race course, and he's consistent.
Peter Besson should easily advance to the semifinal round. 107 miles per hour, storming towards the finish. And I said a time of just about a minute would be outstanding. Besson, 59.27 seconds.
Number 2, Peter, 59 seconds, .27 with no penalties. Number 36, Alejandro, 1 minute, 5 seconds, .18 with 3 seconds penalty. Peter, you're through to the semi-final.
Well, Besson turns in a great time, penalty or not. Mclan would have been eliminated, but the fact of the matter is he was penalized.
Yes, he was, Mike, and here's why. Came out of a tough turn, the ground's coming up too fast, he missed it by 3 feet.
But a miss means 3 seconds penalty and means the end of the day for Alex Mclan. Peter Besson advances. Who will be the next to make it into the semifinals? Will it be Kirby Chambliss or Steve Jones? Find out when we return on FSN. Welcome back to beautiful Monument Valley, Utah. We are at the Red Bull Air Race World Series. Moments ago, a quarterfinal matchup between the number 8 seed, Nigel Lamb, and the top seed, the Brit Paul Bonhomme. Bonhomme advances to the semifinals with a time of 102.56 seconds. And so with Bonhomme advancing, we now turn our attention to the matchup between the Brit Steve Jones and the 2006 World Series champion, Kirby Chambliss. Now, one of the more interesting storylines involves this man, Len Rulison, the former Chambliss mechanic, now working in the hangar of Steve Jones.
You know, Mike, I think this is a pretty interesting move, and I like it. I think that Len brings to Steve Jones' team something that's been missing, that feeling of how to win. And you know, Kirby has really had problems finding his way to the podium this year. This is not going to help.
Number 1, Kirby, you are cleared into the box. Smoke on.
Okay, cleared in. Smoke on for 1, Kirby.
Well, Alan, we will find out some of that story today, and I'm sure in the weeks ahead. But the one thing that is purely in focus for Kirby Chambliss is the fact that he's frustrated. He hit a pylon in the last race in Rio de Janeiro. He has yet to win so far in this defense of his world championship.
I agree, Mike. He's got a monkey on his back, and it's getting heavier with every one of these races that he doesn't win.
Let's see how he starts the quarterfinals here. He, perhaps to his own right, is a disappointing number 3 seed as he enters the quarterfinals at 210 miles per hour. Pulls 4.1 G. We've seen men pull more.
Yes, we have, and actually I'm a little surprised at that. He's flying that 2-place wing, and it turns a lot better. I would have expected a much tighter turn there.
And with this being such a tight, almost a sprint course, Alan, that could affect the outcome today for Kirby Chambliss. 6 and 7 are going to be very interesting. The pilots go vertical just one time, and that is after gate number 7.
You know, I think that this race is going to give us a chance to take a good look at where Kirby's head's at, because we've got this added third dimension of having to follow the terrain with a lot of up and down movement. It'll give him a chance to really be aggressive if he's got it in his head.
The defending World Series champion goes vertical.
You know, I didn't like what I saw right there, Mike. I think Kirby was really slow getting wings level to pull into that vertical move.
Doesn't seem to have the edge, at least here in this quarterfinal run. He storms towards the finish, and his time is 1 minute, 2.91 seconds. Unfortunately, slower than he wanted once again. So Steve Jones has an opening here. Steve Jones, the number 6 seed, trying to eliminate Kirby Chambliss. And remember, Jones had an opportunity to oust Chambliss earlier this year in Abu Dhabi, and he missed that chance on the very last gate.
Number 19, Steve, you are cleared into the box. Smoke on.
Steve's been fast at the beginning of each race, Mike, but sort of interesting to me. He seems to either lack the consistency or the focus to finish the race fast. Could be his conditioning.
Alan, the 47-year-old car collector, has yet to put up a single point this season. He needs a great run here if he wants to beat the reigning champion. A great showing at 9G. Storming towards gate 3. Oh, my goodness. Jones disqualified. He rips through the pylon.
I think he hit his airplane on the ground there, Mike. I think we got to get a look at that.
This is troublesome still for Steve Jones.
Did you G-lock then? You okay?
I'm fine. I'm fine.
So the question is, did he G-lock down at 9 Gs?
Well, I think they're asking him if he's partially passed out in that turn.
Let's take a look again at what happened to Steve Jones at gate 3. Wow, he hit way more than the pylon.
Yeah, he's in trouble now. The airplane looks like it's still under control, but you gotta wonder what happened to that airplane when it hit the ground.
Now there he rips through with the wing. So you wonder, is the wing okay? Are there any other areas damaged?
Well, if you look right there, Mike, you can see that the part of the left wheel pants is no longer on that airplane.
So what concerns would that create for the crew chief? Obviously for the pilot who's still in the air.
Well, you got two concerns right here. The first one is whether or not the airplane can continue to fly, and if the answer to that's yes, then you got to worry about the landing.
Just let me know how it's flying right now.
It's fine at the moment.
Alrighty. Just let me know what you need. Do you need someone to come up on your wing? We've got Kirby right there.
I'll keep you posted.
You know, the air's a lot thinner up here, and it's easy just to miss in this thin air.
A very serious and unsettling situation here. Alan, be Steve Jones for a second. Take us inside the cockpit and what your protocol would be right now to land safely, make yourself safe, get your aircraft out.
I think what Steve Jones is thinking about, and certainly what I'd be thinking about if I was out there right now, is wondering whether or not that landing gear is going to stay together. That's what's on his mind. He's got to assume it's not. He's going to land the airplane as slowly as possible and gently as possible on the right wheel. He's going to set the left side down very carefully. He's going to hope it stays. If it doesn't, it'll drop. It could hit that left wingtip and cartwheel.
You use all the skills you've learned for these multiple hours you've been in the aircraft, and you pray a little bit, and we will as well. Hopefully Steve Jones will be on the ground safely in a moment. We'll be back. Welcome back to Monument Valley. The Flying Dutchman, Frank Verstey, is now on the track, but the thing we're all keeping an eye on is the safety of Steve Jones. As Jones looking to land after ripping through the pylon, we see now here in the corner of the screen that he has safely made it back to the ground, but that was an experience that we do not want to relive.
No, I don't think so at all. I think everybody here has breathed a very big sigh of relief just to see Steve get safely on the ground. And it looks like the airplane wasn't too badly damaged. We'll get a look here in a moment.
The airplane conditioning, now that it's down, is secondary, I think, in everybody's mind. I think what I want to know from you, Alan, as a longtime pilot, what's the mental psyche of Steve Jones like right now?
Well, I think it had to startle him and probably unsettle him a little bit. And, you know, he's going to go back and sit in the hangar and he's going to question his judgment. He's going to think about how he approached that turn. And he's going to wonder whether or not he did G out a little bit.
Now, we will talk about that in time to come. We see the finish by Frank Verstey, 1 minute, 3.36 seconds. So a 3-second penalty could prove costly to Frank Verstey's ability to move on. Here in the quarterfinal matchup against the surprising number 5 seed, Mike Mangold, whose qualifying time was far from his own standards.
Number 3, Mike, you are cleared into the box. Smoke on.
Smoke on, clear to the course, number 3, Mike.
Now, this set of hand signals here is from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That's Mangold's hello to his children, Nicholas and Melissa. He would like to say hello to victory. It's been a long time since he has won here on the Red Bull Air Race World Series. He hits the first gate at 210 miles per hour. But Alan, as I take a look at this plane, it looks different again.
It is. You look at the black cowling on the front. He's got a brand new carbon fiber cowl. Mangold is relentless stalking this championship, and he's not going to leave anything undone.
He looks very sharp thus far in this quarterfinal run. Knife edge through the red gates, horizontal through the blue gates. And he has bettered the time turned in by Verstey at the first split by nearly a full 2 seconds.
This race course is really well suited to Mangold's flying. He's a fighter pilot, and he's used to making a lot of changes in the direction of that airplane.
And the thing is this is a sprinter's course, and I think you could easily say Mike Mangold loves to be a sprinter.
Absolutely, I agree 100%. He wants to go fast right now.
He is definitely going to advance to the next round. You saw the difference there. The split time goes to 4 seconds. That's because that was the portion of the track where Verstey had incurred the penalty. And so Mangold easily moves on, but in so doing, he turns in the fastest time of the day.
Number 3, Mike, proceed to holding 3.
Number 3, Mike.
Number 3, Mike, 58.40, no penalties. Number 69, Frank, 1 minute, 3 seconds, decimal 36, 3-second penalty. Mike's through to the semi-final.
Hey, nice job, everybody, even you, Frankie.
Okay, Mike, congratulations.
Mangold advances an outstanding time, 58.40 seconds. Now for more on the continuing story of Steve Jones, down to the tarmac and Emma.
Trouble on the tarmac for Steve Jones as well. Apparently some of the smoke oil from his number 19 plane hit the engine's exhaust system and almost caught fire. A psychologically taxing day for Steve Jones, who's locked himself away in his hangar. Back to you guys.
Well, Emma, it's been a very long day already for Steve Jones. Unfortunately, it does not seem like it's over yet. Day just beginning for Peter Besson and Kirby Chambliss. Semifinal matchups when we return on FSN. Welcome back to Monument Valley. Welcome back to the Red Bull Air Race World Series on FSN. The Final Four is set, and our semifinal identical to the semifinal we had in the first event of the year in Abu Dhabi. It's the top-seeded Paul Bonhomme squaring off against the number 5 seed Mike Mangold. Peter Besson came in as the number 7 seed, yet he still disposed of Alex Mclan and thus will face Kirby Chambliss in the semifinals. And as I mentioned, it's the same as Abu Dhabi, where we said exactly this. The big dogs have risen to the top.
Yeah, they certainly did, Mike. And you know, it's not unexpected. These guys are not at the top of the series by accident. They're fast, they're consistent, they're predictable. I expected to see this.
What was unexpected was the trial and tribulation that we have all talked about. That is the day of Steve Jones. And interesting, now if you go back to yesterday's qualifying run and compare that to his race here today, you can see his approach to gate 3 was dramatically different.
You know, the stage was set for this early, Mike. He knew he was racing against Kirby Chambliss. He knew he qualified 2 seconds slower. He wanted to pull it all out, and he just pulled too hard.
For more on this situation, a safe Steve Jones is downstairs with Emma.
Steve, it didn't look good out there. It looked like a pretty scary moment.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty hairy moment, actually. Had a minor problem around the first corner with the propeller governor hunting, the RPM was hunting, and I made a stupid error of looking inside briefly to try and sort it out, the propeller control. Big mistake, resulted in a major pylon hit. You know, it's certainly the worst pylon hit I've seen in this sport, and not very clever at all, really. So I'm annoyed with myself. I'm very embarrassed to make such a stupid error, but you know, very, very lucky that I'm still here.
Thanks, Steve. Good to have you back on the ground safe.
Thank you very much.
Mike, I understand exactly what Steve's talking about there. Something happened in the cockpit. He got distracted for a moment. One moment. Look down at your desk. Now look up. In that moment, he traveled 3 football fields. Imagine what changed in his world.
A lot changed, and thankfully his world is the same right now. Steve Jones is safe. Unfortunately, Steve Jones is not the first, nor is he the last pilot on the Red Bull Air Race World Series circuit to rip through a pylon. You know, when we look back upon some of the most dynamic rips and trips through a pylon, I think back to Abu Dhabi last year. Then a rookie, Michael Goulian, tears through the horizontal gate. But that was nothing compared to what we witnessed in Istanbul, Turkey with Paul Bonhomme.
Holy cow, Goldie, that still makes my heart beat fast. He lost lift on the airplane, did a complete roll just to save himself.
And Peter Besson, unfortunately, could not save himself from this rip through the pylon in front of his hometown crowd in Budapest, Hungary. It is something that I think is overlooked at times, and that is the fact that the engineers at Red Bull constructed these pylons with more so than anything else in mind, the safety of our pilots.
Absolutely, Mike. This is very unique in the sport of air racing. These pylons were specifically engineered and constructed to save a pilot's life if he made a mistake. They're the only pylons like this in the world. Now, as you get closer to the top, a pilot's got a chance to fly through there with minimal damage. But when you get down near the bottom, they got these tie-down straps with big metal turnbuckles. I think that's what did the damage to Steve Jones' airplane.
Well, no pylon rips today for Peter Besson. He has advanced to the Final Four. Our first semifinal between Peter Besson and the defending World Series champion, the American Kirby Chambliss, is coming up next when we return to Monument Valley, right here on FSN.
You know, this season so far has been really tough for us. My flying, I mean, I'd be the first to admit, hasn't been the best. I've made a lot of mistakes. But, you know, it just seems like last year, I mean, every angle that I would take in order to cut off that fraction of a second, I would make it. And it just seems like this year, every time I try to cut, you know, a little corner or something, for some reason I'll touch the gate or, you know, draw a penalty for that, where last year, everything I did worked. And this year, nothing worked so far.
Kirby Chambliss is set to hit the track. Welcome back to the Red Bull Air Race World Series from Monument Valley, Utah. Frustration so far this season. And for more on Kirby, let's go back to Emma.
I've just been told by one of Kirby's mechanics that they've found a way to squeeze an additional 7 horsepower out of their plane. Now, they're keeping tight-lipped about what they've actually done, but as you guys know, these races are decided by half seconds, so it could prove to make all the difference. There's a lot of confidence in the Chambliss hangar right now. Back to you guys.
Well, to be quite frank, as he opens at 225 miles an hour, with the time in the last round for Kirby Chambliss of 102.91, Alan, I think you would agree he needs to pick up some seconds.
I do agree, Mike. He's got to find everything on that race course he can. Kirby's really struggling right now.
Kirby Chambliss looking to reverse his fortunes here in Monument Valley, Utah. Through Gate 5, a great look aboard the plane a moment ago of Kirby Chambliss, and here another one down at the beautiful terrain.
You know, Kirby's reached one of his goals right here because he's found some consistency, but unfortunately, Mike, he's about 3 seconds off the pace each time.
He's got to pick up the pace here if he is going to advance to the finals.
Yeah, he's going to have to whip this horse a lot harder than he's whipping it so far.
Through the quadro.
If you look right there, you see how slow he was to roll wings level? That's going to hurt him, too.
You had said a couple of events ago, you're wondering where Kirby Chambliss is mentally as he tries to defend his world championship.
I think he's feeling the pressure of just not getting back on that podium. It's hurting him.
And he won't love this. 1 minute, 2.55 seconds for his semifinal run. So that is the time that Peter Besson will need to better to advance to the finals. Chambliss goes into the holding pattern. Besson is set to race.
Number 2 Peter, cleared into the box, smoke on.
Besson a winner in our opening event of the season in Abu Dhabi. Remember, both Besson and Chambliss ousted themselves, if you will, due to errors made in the last race in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Besson opens at 220 miles per hour.
Look how hard Peter's pulling here through Gate 3. That's just what got Jones into trouble. But Peter seems to have what it takes. I guess that's why he's always a threat to win.
Remember, this is a sprinter's course. We've talked about it all day long. Split seconds are so important.
Every single part of this racetrack is going to be important to these guys. They can't make one little mistake and expect to win.
Well, speaking of split seconds, a 0.89 second of a lead through the first split for Peter Besson on the time turned in by Kirby Chambliss.
You know, Peter doesn't make very many mistakes. He's not flashy, but he's really solid. That's probably enough of a lead if he just holds on.
You know what, he's somewhat like the golfer, the boring golfer, who hits it down the middle, hits it on the green, makes some putts, and walks away with a 67, never hitting it out of bounds. Besson has the lead by 1.19 seconds, headed towards the finish. What a great semifinal against Kirby Chambliss, 101 miles per hour. Can he do it? Peter Besson has advanced to the finals.
Number 2 Peter, 1 minute, 2 seconds, 0.46 with no penalties. Number 1 Kirby, 1 minute, 2 seconds, 0.55, no penalties. Peter's through to the final.
Wow, the difference, less than 1/10 of a second. Besson advances to the finals.
Peter Besson always finds one place on the race course where he can be better. Here it's the dive. He picks up a few miles an hour more, and it carries him through the checkered flag first.
Alan, we've always said these races can come down to fractions of seconds. Perfect evidence of that point in our closely contested semifinal. So Bessonier's advanced to the finals. Who will he meet? Will it be Mike Mangold or the Brit Paul Bonhomme, who is coming off his victory in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil? We'll find out next as we continue our coverage of the Red Bull Air Race World Series from Monument Valley, Utah, right here on FSN.
This thing is risky, it is dangerous. You make a small mistake, it can kill you out there. Trust me, we make it look easy, we make it look safe because of our abilities and the way the thing is set up and the safety measures that are in place in the course. It is dangerous, you know, and we need maybe to identify that and own up to it, but you don't hear a lot of us talk about it because we think we got everything under control.
And for the most part, they do. Mike Goldberg, Alan Preston, glad to be with you here on the Red Bull Air Race World Series. Monument Valley, Utah. For more on Mike Mangold, back to Emma Griffiths.
No other pilot has made more adjustments to his plane than Mike Mangold. It started in the off-season with an engine rebuild, followed by some carbon fibre work to the wingtips. Now Mangold has an entirely new cowling which houses the engine, and some say it might be the lightest engine housing we have ever seen. It has people talking down here on the tarmac about a possible Mike Mangold win today, which will be his first in over a year. Guys?
Well, Lemma, thank you very much. To advance to the finals, he will have to defeat the top seed, the Brit, Paul Bonhomme.
Number 3, Mike, you are cleared into the box. Smoke on.
Smoke on, cleared in the box, number 3, Mike.
Alan, we know one thing very clearly. Mangold, to this point, has turned in the best time of the day. That was in his last run on the track, 58.40 seconds.
That was a lightning trip around this racetrack. Let's see if he can find the way around again.
Mangold hits the track at 192 miles per hour. To replicate that great run, what will he need to do here?
To get that same time, Mike, he's going to have to be practically perfect as he goes around here. He can't be too aggressive, but he's got to be aggressive enough.
Well, we'll see if he can do that here as he hits gate 4, very critical part of the course.
He's got that marble right on top of the razor blade here. To me, he looks plenty fast.
Horizontal through the blue gates. Knife edge through the red gates. Setting a good pace here.
This looks like a really clean run for Mangold right here. I like it.
Mangold, as Emma mentioned, has not won since his championship season of 2005.
Not for lack of trying, though.
You've got that right. Here he goes strong through the quadro. And vertical for the only time on this course.
He was faster that time getting his wings level.
Trying to pick up those all-important milliseconds. Under 700 feet, plummeting back down at 110 miles per hour. Storming towards the finish. And Mangold, 1 minute, 0.57 seconds. So not the 58.4 he turned in the quarters, but still a very respectable time. So Mike Mangold has set the bar. Now he will go into the holding pattern as the top seed, the Brit Paul Bonhomme, is set to run here in the semifinals.
Number 55, Paul, you are cleared into the box. Smoke on.
Into the box, smoke on, Paul 55.
Bonhomme building momentum throughout this early part of the season, winning the last event in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil.
You know, interestingly, Bonham's had the fastest time in both of our previous races.
And speaking of fast, over 20 miles per hour faster as he hit the track here than Mike Mangold.
And he came into that very aggressive.
And very aggressive on the G's on that pull out of gate 2. Flying strong through gate 3.
You know, another interesting point, he's in Mangold's old airplane here.
So we have Chambliss's former crew chief with another team, and Mangold's old plane being turned against and currently beating the best of its former owner. Bonhomme, 1.7 seconds in the lead at the first split.
I think this proves it's not always the horse.
It is not always the horse. This jockey's looking for back-to-back wins on the Red Bull Air Race World Series. Bonhomme, so confident throughout this entire weekend. And he has nearly a 1.5-second lead. He goes vertical. He'll come back down from 657 feet and try to advance to the finals. 110 miles per hour. Pulling towards the finish. 59.06 seconds. Bonhomme has eliminated Mangold. He will face Besson in the finals.
Number 3, Mike, 1 minute, 0 seconds, 0.5 seconds. No penalties. Number 55, Paul, 59 seconds, 0.06, no penalties. Paul is through to the final.
Paul 55, thanks very much. And thanks, Mike. I really enjoyed that. Congratulations, nice job.
Wow, Mangold wishes he could have replicated that 58.4, but he didn't, and Bonhomme's in the finals.
Well, modifications or not, Paul Bonhomme just smoked Mangold down the start of this race. After that, they were pretty even, but Mangold could just never catch up.
We pointed out right at the start, Mangold was at about 198 miles per hour as he hit the course. Bonhomme, 220 miles per hour. And thus Bonhomme advances to face Besson. So our finals will pit our 2 winners so far this season at the Red Bull Air Race World Series. It's the Brit, Paul Bonhomme, who captured the win in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, against Besson, our winner in Abu Dhabi. The finals are coming up next on FSN. 5,200 feet above sea level, we welcome you back to the Red Bull Air Race World Series here on FSN. Beautiful Monument Valley, Navajo Tribal Park. What a great day of racing it's been. Moments ago, Mike Mangold in his consolation matchup for third place in a trip to the podium against Kirby Chambliss. And believe it or not, the struggles and disappointment continue. For Kirby Chambliss, he is disqualified. And thus it's Mangold who will make his way to the podium one more time. So 3 straight trips to the podium so far this season for Mike Mangold. But the winner has yet to be determined. And as we get set for the finals, Emma catches up with a disappointed Kirby Chambliss.
Kirby, disappointment in Brazil and now disqualification here in Monument Valley. What have you got to do to switch it up?
Well, I mean, the disqualification thing's kind of silly, really, because what I had to do was go out there, and Mike's airplane's faster, so I knew the only way that I could beat him was go straight from 5 to 6 and not take the jog like everybody else did. And I thought I might be able to make it, but honestly, it was either I make it and I beat him, or I do exactly what I did and lose. So either way, I mean, you're going to end up if I don't beat him, I mean, I'm going to be 4th either way. So I just went for it.
So you're looking forward to the next race now rather than dwelling on it?
Yeah, of course. I know Mike's plane's just his airplane's fast. He's got a lot of mods to it. So we're going to have to try to do something to make this old girl go faster.
Okay, well, we'll see you in Istanbul.
All right,
guys, back to you.
So disappointment again for Kirby Chambliss. He misses the podium. And Mike Mangold makes the podium again. He has been on the podium for every race so far this season. Most importantly, our finals are set. Paul Bonhomme against Peter Besson, a matchup of 2 of the best on the circuit.
I really like this one, and I'll tell you why. Both these guys are really smooth and really fast. And don't let Besson's qualifying position number 7 fool you. He's a lot faster than he looked out there. He was coming off a really disappointing finish in Rio, but he's going to sneak up on him today.
So we are set for the finals. The top-seeded Paul Bonhomme against the number 7 seed, Peter Besson. Bonhomme the first to race.
Number 55, Paul, you are cleared into the box. Smoke on.
Into the box, smoke on, 455.
The story continues to escalate, the story of success for Paul Bonhomme. And we said at the beginning of the season he could very well be a factor. Now he's looking for back-to-back wins. He hits the course at 220 miles per hour.
He's very consistent. That's exactly the same speed he entered the last race.
And that speed of entrance ended up being the difference at the end as he eliminated Mike Mangold.
That and the fact that he just simply pulls harder than anybody else around that first tight turn.
What is it about Bonhomme right now that is allowing him to physically and mentally peak at the proper time?
I think he's in better physical shape, and he's just being tougher. It's gut check time out there in that first turn.
And a great showing so far for Bonhomme. Very clean run here in the finals. In the number 55 plane, Paul Bonhomme the Brit.
I think Mangold's got to be watching this airplane wondering if he made the right choice, too.
You never are the enemy, and Bonhomme taking advantage, vertical for the one and only time. Bonhomme putting up a very good fight here.
We got a good look at him right there, and you can see he just tolerates the G better than some of the other pilots.
He works towards the finish, and Bonhomme, 1 minute, 0.84 seconds. Not our fastest of the day, but very, very good. And a challenge to Peter Besson. Will Besson be a 2-time winner this year, or will it be Bonhomme? Find out next when we return on FSN. Monument Valley protected the Navajo people when soldiers came for them in the 1800s. What we want to know now, though, is Bonhomme's time safe? Here at race 3 on the Red Bull Air Race World Series. Peter Besson looking for his 2nd win of the season. Ready to go.
Number 2, Peter, you're cleared into the box. Smoke on.
Roger, yeah, copy.
He was perfect on his way to the win in Abu Dhabi. He made a crucial mistake in Rio de Janeiro. He wants to be perfect here today and capture the win here in Utah.
I think we can be certain Peter Besson does not have Rio on his mind right now. He's thinking about one thing, Mike, how to make this first turn where he's got to pull so hard.
He opens at about an identical 220 miles per hour, and he pulls even harder than Paul Bonhomme by half a G.
think the half a G is going to make a difference. It's a lot quicker through the first gate there.
It will be interesting to see. Could we actually have a matchup here in the finals that would be as closely contested as the semifinal matchup when Besson ousted Kirby Chambliss? And so far, so good. A difference of just a half a second.
This is exactly the race we were all hoping to see. Two really evenly matched guys, and there's not an inch between them.
You can see why they have both already been victors so far this season. Besson coming into this weekend number 3 in the World Series standings behind Bonhomme and Mangold. He still has the lead, but by only 0.07 seconds. Will it be Besson or will it be Bonhomme? What an incredible final here in Utah. D8 storming towards the finish. Peter Besson has done it.
Number 2, Peter, 59 seconds, 0.87, no penalties. Number 55, Paul, 1 minute, 0 seconds, 0.84, no penalties. Peter is the winner of Red Bull Air Race Monument Valley.
What a great reaction by Besson and his crew down in the hangar as Besson wins by less than a second. Second win of the year for Peter Besson. Alan by 0.97 seconds. Can you actually find the difference?
You know, Mike, you pointed out earlier, these are two really closely matched race pilots flying a heck of a race. But I can show you. Look right here where Peter Besson went up, dove down into the quadro between 6 and 7. A mile an hour equates to 1.5 feet a second. You'll see it as he goes up through the vertical here. He pulls tighter, and he manages to pick up even a few more miles an hour as he comes down the backside. That additional speed allows him to pull harder on this last turn, and he's going to win the race to the checkered flag right here.
Peter Besson has won for the second time this season as he defeats Paul Bonhomme. It was Bonhomme early, advancing over Nigel Lamb. Then into the semifinals, eliminating Mangold. Besson took down Mclan and Chambliss en route to the win. A very happy Peter Besson, 2 victories in 3 opportunities so far this season on the Red Bull Air Race World Series. But keep in mind, as you take a look at the overall standings, he earned not a single point with the disqualification that occurred in Rio de Janeiro. So with that in mind, Paul Bonhomme is still our leader by a single point over Peter Besson. Mike Mangold has hit the podium all 3 times. Kirby Chambliss still struggling. Here's Emma with the winner.
Peter, you're walking away from Monument Valley with a win today. How are you feeling?
Absolutely great. I'm really happy. It was a great event, very close race, very tough because the elevation, because all the pilots made an excellent run, and I knew at the final against Paul I have to make my very, very, very best because Paul is just an amazing good pilot.
Are you feeling confident for Istanbul?
Of course, I will try to do my best, but the difference are so close. I hope. Only I can say I hope.
Okay. Well, congratulations, and we'll see you at the next race. Back to you guys.
Emma, thank you very much. And Alan, really a very drama-filled day. First and foremost, Steve Jones, thankfully, is safe, but he'll remember this day for a long time, and so will Peter Besson, because he opened up as the 7th seed. He finished in the top spot again. Why?
Well, I've told you this before. Champions aren't always great, but they're great when they have to be, and that's what Peter showed us today. He came on a little slow. He flew his fastest race in the championship race, and hey, we had a great race between 2 terrific pilots. Neither one of them made a mistake. Peter was just a smidge fast.
Peter Besson once again saved his best for last, and it earns him the win. What a great day of racing, drama, great fans, wonderful landscape, one we will not soon forget. For all of us here on the Red Bull Air Race World Series, Mike Goldberg saying so long for my partner Alan Preston from Monument Valley, Utah, where you have been watching the Red Bull Air Race World Series right here on FSN.